everybody, and we'll get this party started. All right. All right. Well, let's get started. So the reason why we kind of started this training session with the word impact is because I think all of us, I'm going to speak for myself here. I feel like I have a lot on my plate. I have a large to-do list, but I think implementation of all the ideas that I have and great trainings that I have attended get a little overwhelming. So productivity is not about doing more, it's about creating more impact and less work, right? So we're going to go over six topics or six strategies to impact your real estate business in 2025. Um, that's still a lot, to be honest. So what I would recommend is after today's session is to even pare these six down to two to three things that are actionable that you actually can implement. Because again, and I don't think we lack ideas. I think we lack implementation. Okay. Again, I'm speaking for myself and coaching a lot of real estate agents over the years. So I did see everybody that registered for this. I see a lot of new faces. So welcome. I see a lot of familiar old friends. Hopefully we'll be able to see each other in person soon. But just quick rundown of myself. My name is Drew DeMaree. I am a real estate agent, fully licensed here in Virginia for 20 years, actually just going into my 20th year. Um, and it's the best profession I've ever had. Prior to real estate, I was a sales manager for Nordstrom, and so I would train new sales associates that joined the particular locations, right? So I've been selling my whole life, and I'm excited that I'm going into my ninth year of coaching. We are an independent coaching company, so we're not with any particular franchise or local real estate branch. I love the diversity of all the clients that we coach and mentor and train with. I've seen everything from a small boutique brokerage with six real estate agents to some of the largest franchises that you've ever seen with 3, 4 thousand agents, if not more, across the country. So I'm proud to be in those training rooms and those opportunities. And so when I'm doing these trainings, I'm coming from a place of neutrality, right? I'm not recruiting you. I'm not here to say one brokerage is better than the other. I'm also not telling you that the one way is better than the other, right? I think one thing in the 20 years of real estate I've found is you got to find your rhythm, find your lane, and really squeeze all the juice out of it, right? My pride and joy is my daughter. She is actually Emma. She's 19 years old. Um, and so her and I have um, a strong bond, and I'm excited to see as she grows and continues to be the rock star that she is, right? All right, well, let's kind of get started. I do want to just alert everybody that I'll send these links out. I also put this slide at the very end as well. We do a free training every month. They're very different trainings, right? So next month we're doing unexpected extras. This is actually one of my favorite ones to teach. We always have good intentions to send that birthday card or anniversary card or celebrate a wedding, or unfortunately maybe their dog passed away, right? We have good intentions, but we don't have systems to send that card out or send that note out or send that text out. So that's what unexpected extras is. That's going to be on March 20th at 10 a.m., just the same setup as this. If you're able to attend any of these in person, of course, I prefer that. But I know how life is. If you want to register and you can't attend, I'll send you the content and the recording. Farming, we've updated this. So a lot of agents that I've coached over the years think farming is just talking about neighborhoods. And you and I know that farming actually is really three different ways: geo, social, and digital, right? So geo is that approach to your farm neighborhood. And I'm going to show you some hacks and tricks and some numbers behind not just picking a random neighborhood, even if you live in it. Really make sure the numbers make sense for you to invest money, time, and effort. Social farms, networking, and ways to do that. And then digital, which obviously is really connected to social media. And the last one that'll be in May is going to be 6 type of referrals. My pet peeve when I coach anyone that I look in their database and they type the referral type or the lead source is referral. There's so many different types of referrals. There's agent referrals, past client referrals, there's SOI referrals. So we really dig deep into referrals. We separate them so you kind of understand and really focus on strategic approaches to each type of referral. We also really go into like how you can get higher quality leads. I don't know if you've ever had that experience where a friend or family member is like, "Oh, I passed your business card to somebody that may want to buy," and you never hear from them, right? So we got to work through that. So these are three trainings that are completely free. I send them out in our monthly email newsletter. I also post them on social media. So if you don't catch them, and those capacity, I wanted to give you that QR code to sign up individually for those. Okay. Right. So first one, we want to talk about how do we kind of focus on how to have more impact in our business. And like I said, sometimes it's not that we lack the ideas. So the first thing I want to kind of hack through is the myth of information versus transformation. I have been guilty of this early in my career. I was addicted to information, right? So even though I was in sales my whole life, when I got into real estate, I knew no one in my town. I really didn't know anything about real estate. So I took every training class I could possibly do. I have every acronym behind my name, which are very important, not knocking any of that. But I was so addicted to information, I really didn't implement everything, right? And so we'll talk later in this, but training is a great best practices, right? So you're in a controlled space, you're in a training room or conference room, right? And you're gaining information. Tricky thing is that doesn't require or doesn't you don't always implement everything, right? So agents that want to focus on transformations are going to take this information, you're going to pick two or three things and actually implement them within 24 to 48 hours, right? And so one of the things I would challenge you is I know we have access to information. I know your brokerages have amazing training. I'm sure you go on YouTube. I'm sure you're listening to podcasts. Information overload is a problem in our industry, and I've seen it countless times. When I start to coach someone, I ask them where they're getting their information from, what's their brokerage training calendar, right? And they're going to all those trainings. Yet we know, if you've been in business for even 5 minutes here, the best way to really get your hands dirty and get into this business is through transactions. And then, yes, we don't want to practice on our clients, but we need to perfect that art and that skill through the art of transactions, right? So just be careful about that. So the first thing I want you to think about through impacting is info versus transformation is yes, you're getting information today, but I want it to transform. I want you to take 2 to 3 parts of this and really implement it. And if you're stuck, if you feel like you're still after today's training session, you don't have clarity, reach out to me. I'd rather spend 15, 20 minutes on another Zoom session with you for free. No, I'm not at recruiting you and asking you to pay for it. Rather get clarity than you be stuck. I got a bookcase behind me full of books, and I feel like we call that the smart shelf, right? We go to all these trainings, we go to all these conferences, we have all these ideas, and then we don't implement. And I think that's the first thing I want you to think of. If you're really going to make an impact, we gotta pull the trigger. We gotta finish what we start. Okay. So I always coach the people to tell people to go deep, not wide. So it's funny when I coach someone, I think sometimes often they think I'm going to give them 75 things that they have to do. What I often see is that agents have too much on their plate. They're implementing too many things at one time, right? So I would rather you go deep, squeeze all the juice out of it, right? So an example of that is, let's say you're going to really fine tune your social media content, your schedule. You're going to be consistent with your branding. So we're going to focus on that. Maybe you're going to send out one email newsletter a month. We're just going to get that baby so nice and in a great way, high open rates, high click through rates, right? And then the third thing is you're going to connect with 10 people per day. You're like, wow, that doesn't seem like a lot, right? Well, there's three things: social media, email newsletter, and connect with 10 people today per day. It takes time to tweak and soften those edges. So I find often that in the real estate industry, because we have such information overload, we have this buffet of all these amazing ideas, all these strategies. I mean, social media alone, what is there, 10, 12 different platforms, right? You can choose from, right? So too many ideas lacks that. So don't go wide. Don't be going through the buffet and tasting all of them. What I would coach you to recommend to high impact is take three things, really, really squeeze the juice out of them, really, really maximize the opportunity of those. And then once those are in what we call like that mastery or like, it's almost like autopilot, then you can go to three more. Okay. So just want to kind of start off this session with less is more. And I think sometimes we get an overload because of that. So one of the things that I often ask people is, where do you write down all the stuff you got to do, right? Your goals, your action plan. And they say, they write it on a piece of paper. They write a to-do list. I'm going to show you in the next slide. I'm actually give you a tool that we use that I physically use every day or every week. Um, To-do lists are tricky because yes, it's got a list of everything, but these are the kind of real rapid fire lack of prioritization. Your brain doesn't dump them in order of prioritization, right? It also doesn't set any type of allocation of time, right? So it may say post on social media, but how much time is that going to take, right? It also encourages task hoarding. So what I mean by that is it's this endless task. And so this is where unfortunately I see burnout or like this hamster in the wheel concept. And unfortunately, often, so you're kind of trying to knock down that list, you're taking care of the easy stuff first, and those bigger tasks or the things that you don't really enjoy, or maybe you're not the highest skilled level of, you're leaving those to the end, right? And so again, that kind of leads to lack of prioritization, but it is that task hoarding. Doesn't ensure progress over big goals. It should always connect to that, and so that's probably self-explanatory there. And then it also creates decision fatigue. I think because we have so many options in real estate, because we have so many brilliant humans that come on the internet and tell us these amazing stories of success, we get overwhelmed. I joke all the time that like when I go to the grocery store, I go in the chip aisle, right? Potato chips. I get overwhelmed. I mean, I'm just being honest. I feel like old school, like there was like three, four brands of chips and like four or five options. Now there's three, four aisles worth of potato chips, right? I get overwhelmed because this decision of what I'm going to choose, right? So I would personally recommend you scratch the to-do list. I know for some of you that's not going to be easy for you because you love a to-do list. I would like for you to kind of transition to this. This is a weekly plan. And so I have purchased every type of planner that I've known to man. I've got real estate planners, I've got calendar planners, I've got productivity planners, I've got Google planners, I got digital stuff. I personally, and maybe this is old school, I like to have a printed piece of paper where I can write things down and I can cross them off with a pen or a pencil. And so I built this years ago and I love it. It's simple, it's one page, it's for the week. I flip it over, it's blank on the backside so I can take some notes on maybe some additional tasks or some things I need to do. So this is something I'll give you, and maybe this will be encouraging to you. So if you're a to-do list person, this might be a good replacement for that. If you're a person that doesn't write anything down, you keep it all in your head, shame on you. I really would coach you to tell you that you can't keep all the good ideas in our head. It causes you not to sleep well. There's stress level, there's endorphins, there's all kinds of things. So this is pretty simple. We got three priorities for the week. And we also then have focus areas, right? And so you'll write those in. We have little check boxes as you can cross them off. And then I'm obsessed with habit tracking for things that are important to me. So drinking water, connecting with people, workouts, read for 30 minutes, whatever you feel would be appropriate there. But it's such an easy way to keep track of things, right? And I'm always on the go, so I can fold it and stick it in my book bag briefcase thing. I can keep it in a book I'm reading. Like it's not clunky. So anyway, it's just something that I think the first strategy is to start what you finish, right? And this gives you, and I would recommend keeping these, right? So every week you're going to do a new one, and it just shows your progress report. So I find often when I'm coaching people, they're overwhelmed because they have too much on their list. And so my job as a coach is to simplify their list so they actually get actionable things done rather than all the stuff that we all spin around doing. Okay. So I put a few little truth bombs in, and I get these truth bombs honestly online from different people that post. You probably see like the quote of the day or like fun stuff. And there's a brokerage You probably have heard of it, Real Brokerage. Sharon, I never can say his last name, but his social media, if you don't follow him, even if you're not at that brokerage, I think he gives some like fun stuff. So I put some of his in here this training because he hits you in the gut. It's truly a truth bomb. He literally just posts it on his Facebook and Instagram. So the first one I put in here is your habits run on autopilot until you notice them they run you, right? So we all have habits, right? We all have good habits, we all have bad habits. And the only thing that we can do is start to recognize what our habits are, right? Not to beat ourselves up, not to make ourselves feel bad, but awareness is the first opportunity of change, right? So if we're aware that we're eating the wrong things, then we can start to change that, right? So it's just, I thought that was a good little segue to our next impact, right? So I'm obsessed, and I think this book has been out for a few years, and I do not care. I could talk about it for the next 10 years. I read it at least once a year. I read it, I think, twice last year. Um, Atomic Habits, it's been around. I don't even know how long it's been around, but it's so good, right? And I know there's so many books out there about habits and about how many days it takes to create a habit. And I think the one thing, if you've read this book, let me know in the comments. But like, um, if you haven't read this book, you should. Audible, like in the car, it's so good. It helped me lose 50 pounds. So it's not just real estate related. It completely is amazing, right? Such a good book. And I really think you should read it again. But the reason why I start this is really all habits, because we're going to make an impact, we have to change our habits, right? Is they start with what they call the cue, the craving, the response, and the reward. And these are kind of the examples that they gave in the book. But I like this one. It's like, all right, so the cue is you wake up, right? It's very natural. You wake up. The craving is you want to feel alert, right? So we all wake up kind of groggy, right? And so your response in this example is you drink a cup of coffee, right? And then the reward is you feel alert, and and the drink of coffee becomes associated with waking up, right? So we got to be careful that the cue is where it starts, right? We know that we got to set that environment up, and so when I'm looking at when I'm creating new habits for myself, I got to be really careful that the cue is very simple, right? So I actually have three clients right now. They're in the middle of what is it called? Hard 75 hard. I don't know if you has anybody ever done that? So 75 hard is kind of like a I don't know, it's like fitness and mindset and all the things. So you have to drink water, you have to go outside for 45 minutes and exercise. You gotta do five or six activities every single day. Um, and the cue, right, is that it's that the beginning process, right? And then the craving. And so I want you to think about like what is a habit that you want to create, right? And what is the best way for you to like hit the cue, satisfy the craving, because your body will get used to it and the response and the reward will come. Okay. Last thing what did I just do? Oh, I clicked on the actually had a I'll send it to you guys. Actually, the blog on that. Um, because I love just the concept of it, and it really made a big difference for me. The last thing that it says in the book that I think is important to like making an impact on our business is don't miss twice, right? So I have been to many trainings where they'll say, let's say you're going to make 5 phone calls every day. And so today you're just having a rough day. You're not feeling good, or it's snowing outside, or the kids are home from school, and you're just not able to hit the 5 calls today. Well, then tomorrow you wake up and now you got to do the 5 calls from yesterday and the 5 calls for today, right? I don't believe that's healthy because what happens is it causes this snowball effect. And we already are struggling with willpower, mindset, and habits, right? So all I say to all my coaching clients is don't miss twice, right? So yesterday, kids were home from school, you couldn't make your calls. All right. I can inspect that a little bit more and see if that's accurate, if you made that an excuse, but you can't turn back the clock. Yesterday was yesterday. But today, you're going to make your 5 calls, right? So every day is a clean piece of paper. And so I just want you to be aware that when you're going through making habits changes, don't miss twice. I don't know if you've ever done this as well where you say, "Oh, I'm going to start on Monday." I don't know why people start. We all, mean, I hear it all the time. Why we're going to start on Monday. We're going to start a new diet. We're going to start a new fitness. We're going to start, you know, what? No, start today. And so it's funny, I'll do a coaching session, like a discovery call, and they say, hey, yeah, I definitely want to sign up for coaching. So we do our first session together and we talk about some strategies they want to implement. They're like, oh, well, when does this start? I'm like, it starts today, right? It doesn't start tomorrow. It doesn't start Monday, right? We want to start building those habits day one, right? You don't just tour the gym when you get a membership. You go to the gym and you work out, right? That's the first day. Last thing in the book before we kind of transition to the next topic is habit stacking, right? So these are super cool. Um, you actually do like you do one thing and then you stack another. So let's say you want to work out to the gym 5 days a week, right? And then also you're like after you've implemented 5 days a week working out at the gym, right? Maybe you also the second goal you have is to read a book, right? So maybe you're going to listen to the audiobook while you're working out. So that's stacking, right? And so the cool thing is that when you get into habit stacking, it gets easier, right? It just does, right? So it's tricky to start everything at one time. So I'm guilty of this. When I'm feeling like I'm not fitting into my jeans, I'm like, I got to be dramatic. I got to drink a lot of water. I got to go to the gym 5 days a week. I got to track my nutrition. I got to run all the protein. And no, no, no. I got to do one thing at a time, right? So first week, just go to the gym. Second week, stack it. Then I'm going to track nutrition in the gym. Third week, nutrition, tracking, gym, right? And then I'm going to maybe add water and be consistent with that. And I know you're going to think, well, I can do multiple things. What your brain in this book is amazing at is that it's hard for your brain to process separate cues, right? So it's hard for your brain to say, okay, let's go to the gym. Okay, let's track your nutrition. Okay, let's track your water intake, right? Because it can't multitask, right? And so as you habit stack, it actually makes you go faster. And I gave a 1 week example. Maybe you wait 3 days after the gym and you add in nutrition track. Maybe 3 days later you add in water, right? You can change the frequency of your stacking, but it truly is a life changer when you're building habits. Don't go 100% all in into changing habits when you were, you know, behind the curve before. Okay. Another cool truth bomb is comfort kills more dreams than failure ever will. And so oftentimes I think sometimes we're in our comfort zone, right? It's tricky. And so I actually coached someone. She's a rock star real estate agent. She's been in the business for 10 years. Financially, she's in a good spot. She's has success every year. She's got great opportunities with investments, and we talk about her cash flow, and she's doing well with that. The tricky thing is that there's the comfort zone of there's money in the bank, right? There's a savings account. There's already things set up. So sometimes maybe you're not in the comfort zone of maybe your bank account, but there's other things you're doing that are just so comfortable that you're not able to get out of that comfort zone. So be careful with that. Okay. All right. So let's talk about branding. This third one is an interesting conversation because I think it probably will make a biggest impact of any of the six that we talk about today if you really listen and really think about how it can really be implemented. So I want you to think about it real quick. What are your favorite things, right? So think about the favorite sandwich shop. Like what is a restaurant where you get like your favorite sandwich or soup, or what's your kind of go-to place? What kind of cars have you purchased in the past, right? Is there a brand or is there a type of car that you've enjoyed, right? Hotels, purses, makeup, right? Is there a brand of makeup that you prefer over another one? Coffee shops, right? Things like that. It's funny, I always thought I was a Starbucks person. And then I live closer to now a Dunkin' Donuts. So I go to Dunkin' Donuts and I'm like, actually, I don't think I even like Starbucks coffee, right? So it's interesting how we think a brand that we are loyal to. The reason why I bring this up is we're going to talk about branding as an impact tool. I will tell you, when I ask this question, most of us don't think of the logo. We think of what we're getting from the brand, right? So I think sometimes when we're in real estate, we think branding is the color scheme, right? It's the logo design that we got somebody to design a cool logo for us. It's all those cool lifestyle photos that you took with you holding a coffee mug or you opening the front door, right? Branding is none of that, right? Branding is reputation. And so if we start to look at it from the lens of it's not about the pretty logo or the color scheme, it's about reputation, right? So a personal brand is a digitization of your reputation. If I were to call your best friend right now and ask them what are the three things that they love about you, they would have no question, no hesitation. They would be able to say why they love you and why they are loyal to you and why they believe in you, right? In real estate, we know it. Real estate is a contact sport. The more people we have to talk to, because not everyone buys real estate. Give this example all the time in training, just to give perspective of people in the market and out of the market. There's last census is there's 345 million people that live in the United States right now. There's going to be anywhere between, I think it was 4 million, let's just do round numbers, 5 million people are going to buy houses in 2025. So we got 345 million, but then we only have 5 million that are going to buy a house. So no matter how great your TikTok is or how great your newsletter is or how many phone calls you make, there's only going to be a certain percentage, 5 million, that actually want to buy the services that you have. Doesn't even matter the brand, right? It's because they just don't need that product or service, right? So digitization of your reputation is trying to get to all the yeses to get to those 5 million people, right? And so I push back all the time about social media. And I love social media. I hate social media. It's like a love-hate relationship. It's like a I always say it sometimes I feel like it's like a abusive relationship. You're like, there's parts of social media I love, and there's parts of the social media that personally just gives me a mindset challenge to overcome, right? And I think sometimes in real estate we have what we call comparison syndromes, right? So we're now February is always the month where everyone posts their amazing results from the previous year. And if you haven't hit those numbers, you start to go internal and say, why didn't I hit those numbers? Right. So anyway, I digress from that. But the branding thing with on social media is it's not what you do, it's not how you do it, it's who you are. And so I see all the time we see Canva graphics of like the 5 steps to home purchase, right? That has nothing to do with your reputation. That's not branding, right? So if I see your face, right? So if you turn the camera around and you create a 30-second, 1 minute video and you tell me the 5 steps to home ownership, that's what branding is, right? Because that's your reputation. They start to see you, they like you, they know you, and they start to trust you, right? And so I think sometimes we all hide behind the pretty branded logo graphics that we see that we create in Canva, but all the consumer wants to see is you. And I know you're like, well, I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I sound. No offense, but with that's what we see, right? I hate my voice, but it is what it is, right? So the other thing is reputation precedes your revenue, right? And so those that are successful in the real estate industry that are making an impact, they have tapped into the trust factor, right? So I want us to talk about that. How do you build trust to build a brand, right? So if we know brand is connected to reputation, it always connects to trust, right? Why do we choose the makeup consistently that you're wearing every single month, right? You run out of the makeup, you buy more makeup, right? We buy that cup of coffee, we drink it, we go tomorrow, we buy the same cup of coffee tomorrow, right? We do that because we trust there's consistency in it, right? So I would say in real estate, we got to really start to look at your social media calendar and the content you're putting out and the branding of your reputation. They have to see you. So love you, mean it, get over it, right? We got to see your face, right? Also, they need to learn from you, right? That builds that trust factor, right? So that is important for you, educating them, showing them things behind the scenes. That is huge, right? So, and then they have to feel like they know you. This is the tricky one because a lot of real estate agents want to separate the brand from the personality. And so let's think about the famous singers in the world: Taylor Swift, Beyonce, right? Let's say Oprah. Yeah, we know their product, their services, their TV shows, their music, but we also know the gossip. We know who they're dating, where they live, what they're eating, right? And so I think in real estate, we have to be careful. Maybe not, we're not celebrity status yet like Oprah or Taylor Swift, but we have to realize they have to see us. We have to make sure we're coaching and educating them about real estate. We also have to like let them in, right? And so I'm not saying that you need to document or blog every meal that you cook, but you need to let them in. And so I particularly have 5 things that I let people in. So if you follow me on social media, you see this is what I let you in. I talk about my dogs because I love my puppies. I talk about my daughter. I talk about mindset. And then I do talk about some of my relationships, just my journey through that, and then coaching, right? So those are the 5 things. I do way more than the 5 things that I show on social media, but I let enough in to where people feel like they know me, right? So when I meet a stranger, literally had this last week, had a stranger come up to me in the grocery store here in Fredericksburg. I didn't know who she was, an amazing woman, and came up and said, "Hey, I follow you on social media. You know, thanks for the content. Thanks for everything. I also followed your journey with your wife passing away," right? So the reason why I say all that is I'm not like the poster child for branding, but I would say I see agents across the country that are using their branding to build trust in a powerful way. And you can do that. You just have to really make an impact. Again, and this is not complicated. It's 3 things, right? So when I'm building out, helping someone build out their social media calendar, is it, do I see you? Am I learning from you? And do I feel like I know you? If the answer is no, then we're not posting it. We're not putting it out there, right? Because it's not building that trust. Last piece about branding and overall impact on social media is this concept of branding and vanity versus branding as service. There is no fear if the message of service is clear, right? If you, there's this authenticity that when you follow someone and you feel like they're telling you the truth, or when you feel like you're hearing something that you need to hear today, right? There's so many times when I follow someone, I feel like I'm being preached to from like, the church pulpit, right? So there is no fear in the message if the service, if you're clear in the service, right? And the best way that I have found to coach people for like what is service, right? What is the message, right? Because we all sell houses, we all have access to MLS, we all have negotiation skills. So these unique value propositions to me are all the same. And so how do you actually stand out? How do you actually say, "Hey, I'm different than Drew," right? I think it starts with where you came from. Like, what's your story of how you got here and maybe your experiences? So, if you're in real estate, maybe that's what you talk about. I talk about all the time. I got into real estate 20 years ago because I bought a house from a real estate agent that did not do a good job. God bless her. She was trying her hardest, but she did not know what she was doing. She did not help me through the process. She did not educate me. She did not have good vendors to recommend to me. And the transaction was a train wreck, right? And so that inspired me to get my license, right? And so I think just be careful and connected to that, okay? Really, really important. So, all right. So, a 75 hard challenge. You probably have heard of this on the, like I said, on the fitness side of things, but we created a 75 hard social media challenge. So I'm going to give this to you and I challenge you to do this and set a reward for yourself. So posting every single day, Monday through Sunday, right? 7 days a week. The weekends are not off, right? One post. Maybe it's a post, maybe it's a story, maybe it's a reel, maybe it's Instagram, maybe it's Facebook, maybe it's a combo of, right? So you post every day. And if you don't post every day, then what it is that if you miss a day, you got to do a video to get you back on track. And if you don't do a video the next day, then you start back at one, right? And so the cool thing is I have a team that's doing this right now. I think they're in like 20, 25 days in. And first of all, your algorithm will go up, right? The more you post, the more people see. It's just how the game of social media works, right? You post once a week, it's gonna be 20 to 25%. You post every day, 7 days a week, it's gonna go up to 35, 40%, right? So the more you post, the more eyeballs you see, the more exposure you get, right? So posting once a day a minimum, that's something. So I also said, hey, I want to push towards doing more video. Again, we can see your face. So if you post a video, you get the next day free. So that's your option there. But so I'll send you this social media challenge. It's great. I'd recommend you doing it with another agent in your office, accountability partner. It's really fun to kind of almost have a game with it. Again, connected to your branding and your reputation. Okay. All right. Truth bomb habits don't need willpower, they need less friction. And I see this all the time when I coach people at the beginning of our relationship. The habits actually aren't hard. It's just you created so many obstacles to make it hard that it just got overwhelming, right? So I thought that was a good one. All right, let's go to number four. Don't let the lead die, right? So there's a little bit of nuances in here. We all know follow up is the big deal, right? We know that that's the key. I see that we don't have systems for that. So I think the biggest impact that I would say is where the heck are all your leads now, right? So you see this probably stat all the time. I'm not going to read all of these percentages, but the one that I think is probably the biggest impact is the fourth one down. Only 10% of salespeople make more than 3 contacts. And I know it happens because I look in people's databases when I coach them and I say, where did you get the lead from? They say open house. I'm like, okay, great. So open house was the initial contact. And then what did you do? Well, I sent them a handwritten note and I sent them an email. And that's it. And then they're like, well, they didn't do anything. That's 3 contacts. The bottom of the screen, 80% of sales are made on the 5th to 12th contact. So my follow-up plan is simple. There has to be at least 6 touches afterwards. So if I meet you at an open house, I got it 6 touches later. And if you never reply to any of those touches, I don't care. I'm going to do touch number 3, touch number 4. I'm going to send you a text. You don't reply. Great. I'm going to send you an email. That's touch 4. I'm going to do that. I'm going to do a handwritten note. That's touch 5, right? I'm going to do one final call to say, hey, I know we haven't been able to connect with, but it is like clockwork when I coach people and I really dig into their database of follow up, it is that 5th to 6th to 7th to 8th touch, right? So follow up is key. So I'm not doing this for a database class, but I'm going to tell you that using a database, like physically using it, like opening it up like you do TikTok, opening it up like you do your email every single day will change your business. It'll make a huge impact because I talk to people all day long. I talk to people via text. I talk to people through direct message. I go to networking meetings. You all do the same thing. I know you do, right? But I love you all, and I've had probably great conversation with some of you on the session today, but I don't remember our conversations because I'm talking to so many people, and so many people are from different parts of the country, and they're all having different experiences. It's hard to keep it in this little brain of mine, right? So what do? I write it down, I put it in my database, right? I call these breadcrumbs, right? So if you have a database that you don't open up every day, that's a huge impact. That's a habit that you can start immediately, right? So when I start my prospecting, I do it every day, right? I open my database up first. So if I'm texting you, you text me back, I will tell you when you text me back, I'm putting the notation in my database. No, they don't need coaching, or hey, they want coaching in May or April, right? So then I set a task to follow up with you 30 days, 60 days prior, right? And I don't, again, so I just want you to realize you got to write down and document this. All databases, I've seen databases from KW Command, KV Core, Follow Up Boss, you name it, I've seen the database. All databases have the same buttons, they're just in different places, right? Every database have a notes section. And I want you to treat your database notes section like a journal, right? It should have every time you've done something. This number 1 shows you how many follow-ups you've done. So if you see 6 or 7 notations of these touches you've done over the course of this relationship, you're getting close to a conversation or a response, right? It's great because then when I pull this up, I read the last note that I wrote and I start with that. That's the breadcrumb. So I'll give you a real life example. I called a client. She was a teacher that I sold 5 years ago. She told me on the phone, she answered the phone, she's having knee surgery that Monday. So in my notes, the journal section of my database, I said she's having knee surgery on this date. I put a task to remind me to call her like a week later. I wanted to give her like a week of recovery, right? So I call her, she answers the phone, and I said, hey, her name was Deborah. Hey, Deborah, I wanted to check on you. I know you had knee surgery last week. Just wanted to check on how you're doing, right? She started laughing. She goes, you know what? You've called me before my own son called me. Flash forward 60 days later, she actually gave me a referral. It was one of her teacher friends. We bought a house together, right? I'm going to be honest with you. I would have never remembered that she was having knee surgery. I call 10 people a day. I prospect daily, just like you do. And sometimes those details get lost in the sauce, right? So high impact, but simple. Write it down in your database. Use these touch moments to just put a little notation of something they said, okay? And then the bonus hack is definitely using the task. If you use tasks, every contact in your database has a task because you can say, hey, I'm going to call them back in 3 months or I'm going to text them in 6 months, right? Then it creates this like working action plan. So just my high horse on database, but it's made me money just by using the relationship side of that journal. Okay. All right. So the last thing about kind of is making sure and you have an impact on those leads is let's make sure we're asking good questions, right? So I'm a big stickler on this because I'm aware of fair housing. So what if I were to video camera you? So let's say you are doing a buyer consultation with the purple family and you ask certain questions. Then I videotape you and you do different questions with an orange family or a green family. You see what I'm saying? If you're not consistently asking the same questions, my perspective is that because they're a different color? Is it because you like orange versus green? First of all. Second of all, they're having a different customer service experience. When I go to a store, I want the same experience, right? Right. So when I go to the grocery store, I shop at Wegmans, I expect what I expect. I've shopped there for long enough that I know where the produce is, I know where the checkout is, I know the system, right? And so if we're going to be able to build repeat client base, we need a consistent experience. So when they buy 2 and 3 and 4 houses from us, or they refer us to their sister and their mother, they have a similar experience. Last thing about questions is that we don't go deep enough into it, right? To truly uncover the motivation. And some people always say, well, I don't want to feel like I'm interrogating them. I don't want to feel like they're on trial for something, right? So I'm going to show you a model. I use it religiously. So in my previous life, I say this, I worked at a large franchise brokerage and I recruited agents. And I even used this model when I recruited agents. I use this for sellers. I use this for buyers. So I'm about to show you a very simple question model, and I literally write it on a piece of paper, and this is what it looks like. I literally write, actually, let me go to the second screen because it's a little larger. I literally take a piece of paper in front of you. You're my buyer, which is completely fine. You can see what I'm writing down. I put a T in on a piece of paper, literally like you see on the screen, like the white T that you see right there. All right. Then I call it the question dance. It's the 4 quadrants is like the technical name, but it's like a little dance, right? It's like 4 steps, right? So I start at the top left, I go down, then I go to the right, and then I go back up. So I'm going to go back and show you. So I always want to start with good stuff. So I'm going to give you an example. Move this over so I can actually see what the heck I'm seeing here. Is let's say you have a buyer that is kind of on the fence about making an offer. What do you like about the house? What this is called positive present, this first box. I want you to talk about all the good stuff, right? I want you to ask them questions about all the things they love. I actually love this one even more when I'm working with buyers that are renting currently. So I ask them questions like, "Hey, you rent right now, correct?" And they're like, "Yeah." And I'm like, "Oh, awesome. Where do you rent at?" And they tell me. And they're like, "I'm like, oh, how much do you pay in rent?" They tell me. What do you love about? Why did you choose to rent there? Oh, because it's close to the schools, right? Like, what is your favorite feature about that house that you currently live in, right? And you're like, why would I care? There is always a plan B in someone's brain, right? So in the example of the renter, if real estate transaction doesn't go the way they want, they're just going to keep renting, right? So I need to know what the positive present is, like what their brain is thinking about, because they're obviously comfortable there. Now, there are probably external or internal factors that are going to motivate them to hopefully purchase with you. So the second thing is called negative present. What intimidates you about putting a winning offer as the example I put in here, right? So again, like the renter example, I always say, what have you heard about the market? Where do you get your real estate news before you met me? What apps do you have downloaded on your phone that you use to search properties right now? Right? Do you have any family members that have not had a good experience with real estate lately? Right? What are you hearing about the mortgage world, right? Because if you already start to know they have some negative information or maybe inaccurate information, you can debunk that fairly quickly. So negative present, those questions quadrant number two are huge for uncovering the toxic things that are not real, right? The fake news, right? Third thing, going into negative future. So this is something where sometimes we don't go into this, right? Because we always want to paint rainbows and sunshine like the real estate transaction's easy. You and I know honestly that it's not. There's a lot of bells and whistles. There's a lot of ingredients in this transaction that have to go right to get them to actually purchase or sell, right? So if we don't put an offer on this home, what will the future look like based on your need to buy? Right? So what if it doesn't work out? What if I can't find the house for you? What if you're telling me all the things you need in the house, inventory is low, interest rates are a little higher than they've been. What if we can't find that unicorn house for you? What's your plan B? What is your option? Right? What what are we going to do if what if we go through the home inspection period and you find some things you're not happy with and it freaks you out? Like what's going to be our backup option? So you got to spend some time on this negative future because it's not fear mongering. It is reality. There's obstacles, there is fear, there is concern, and a buyer or a seller sometimes isn't naturally going to divulge that to you because you and I are salespeople and we're wrapped up in what I call the dog and pony show. So showing the bright colors and how great it is. We all know there's negative side effects sometimes to this industry and the transaction. Let's just get it all out there. Let's just be honest, transparent, and truthful, right? And then number four, we're all pretty much good at, right? So once your offer is accepted, what would be the best part of the future? We talk about this one pretty obvious. Obviously, the positives of buying a home, right? The positives going through that. I sometimes use positive future as a way to recap. So it says, hey, I know you love renting your house currently because you love the backyard. We talked about if home inspections don't go well, unfortunately, if we back out of the contract, you'll have to stay at the rental property. And the negative future would be you're going to be paying rent versus building equity for yourself, right? So the positive future is let's go find a daggone house, right? So one of the things I would definitely say is this is such a cool dance, and it's a way for you to ask questions. And if you're not comfortable doing it off the cuff like I am, write the questions down. Them seeing you have questions pre-written, and then when you ask the question, you answer it below, that's prepared, right? So there's nothing wrong with having positive present questions, which I'll send you some, negative present questions, negative future, and positive future. Have it written down on a piece of paper. When they answer the questions, write the answer down, right? It's okay to show them that you're doing it in a systematic way so you don't miss anything. Okay. Hopefully that helps. The last thing is this is connected to NLP and it's neuro linguistic programming. It's a cool like conversation model. It's an easy way to do it. I call it often the slang version of it is called natural language processing. So we're just trying to get through a conversation with a buyer or seller in a language that they understand, right? So knocking all those acronyms off, the CMA, right? pre-qual, like make sure you're talking in a natural language and you're asking questions that are natural, right? Because there's connected to a lot of way people learn. Okay. All right. We're almost near the finish here, but I got a couple good things to kind of end with. Asking for help isn't giving up. Asking for help is refusing to give up. So I put this one in here. It's interesting. Sometimes when I go to a training and then we talk about coaching, like, oh, I don't need coaching, or I've been in the business for 20 years. I don't need a coach. And so I always think it's interesting. I was texting someone yesterday. Sometimes coaching has a negative connotation because you feel like you're asking for help, and it's not, right? Asking for help is refusing to give up. It's actually advancement. So sometimes I think in our brain we get that little twisted. So, all right. So number 5 is making things more personal. So I think this one is huge because there's some data that I wanted to share with you. 91% of customers say they're more likely to be in business with the brand if they're more of a personal experience. Studies show that sharing a meal increases collaboration by 20%. Breaking bread, taking people out to lunch, taking people out to coffee, they're more likely to build trust just because you bought them a $5 cup of coffee, right? Agents who host quarterly meetups or one-on-one lunches report 50% increase in referrals. So again, not making this crazy, but high impact is maybe you do one coffee a week. So I have a couple clients. This is a great one to give example of. Coffee to Convert, we call it the 52 week challenge. They go to coffee once a week, 52 weeks, right? And the cool thing is she does a little selfie with them. She tags the coffee shop that she went to and her clients. So it's helping all her social media algorithms. And it's also building that connection with her client base, right? So maybe that's something you're going to do to build more of that personalized experience. Something else that people are doing to kind of step up their game to make sure it's more of a VIP experience is it's less about client events. It's more about what we call those micro events, right? So I had somebody, these are something we try to do at least every quarter, if not every other month, right? It's not a complicated event. It's not you're going to send formal invitations out. It's not like you're going to book out a caterer and a photographer and set up decorations. No, don't make it complicated. I would say find something that show up, enjoy experience. Like go bowling, right? 10 minutes before you show up, you're there, they're there, you bowl, you have fun, right? So no fancy invites. Do it in a text message. Tell them that, hey, I'm getting together 6 people to go bowling, or I'm getting 6 people to go to dinner, or got 6 people. We're going to do this fun little axe throwing thing. And I want you to be one of the 6. Please let me know if you can come on this date, this time. Again, don't make it complicated. Just high impact is because you're doing that relationship, right? Keep costs low. And obviously the follow-up is important. So these are some examples. I had somebody do like a plant house. It's like they did like planetariums, bonsai stuff. I had somebody do candle making. So they got some people together and had they made candles. I had somebody do axe throwing. And then also somebody do those escape rooms where you kind of locked in a room and you have to find your way out kind of thing. This is huge because it's about building that reputation, that brand connection is you, right? It's not always about spending $3,000-$4,000 on a big event. Sometimes that's intimidating to agents that I coach. And honestly, these are really good. I had one, she did a Galentine event at her house, invited like 10 people to her dining room table. She did do a little decorations, but it was super. The feedback was great, and actually, she already got 2 referrals. Literally, they were like, "I want to buy," and they gave her another person that wants to buy. It's because it's just connections, right? Last few things before we hop off. I know we only have about 4 minutes. I want to honor your time. I love this one. This is one of the last ones. Beginners build to gain security. Professionals build to gain trust. Master build to gain freedom. And so, although we're all on our journey to what I call mastery, we're never going to master everything, right, or anything, because you're always growing and learning. But I think it does give you that freedom. So, last one is growth happens at different rates. And so, I know we're all on different perspectives of this industry because we're all at different experience levels, we all are different markets, all are different personalities, right? but I'm just going to show you some of the way that just naturally all humans are connected to growth. So this is actually from a psychologist in the 70s. They built this out. We all go through this. And if you think about anything you're trying to learn new, let's say new technology, right? Or let's go think back to when you're a real estate agent. Your first day, you just got licensed and you just put your license with a brokerage. What do? They put you in a training, right? Because you don't know what you don't know. So stage one is what they call unconscious incompetence. Doesn't mean you're dumb. It just means you don't know what you don't know. And I will tell you, 20 years in the business, what I thought real estate was versus what real estate is completely different than the first day I got my license, right? So we all go through stage one, then we transition to what we call stage two. It's conscious incompetence. So now you know that you don't know, right? And so this gets a little tricky because you feel like you're getting your sea legs. You feel like you're starting to understand the new topic or the new technology, right? Think about all the crazy transitions real estate has had. New technology, new websites, new MLS functions, right? New compensation structures, right? Our conversations, right? Third stage is what we call conscious competence, right? So now you know about it, but you do have to think about it. Like it's not kind of on autopilot. It isn't always natural at first. And then the last one is unconscious competence, right? Which is we know it so well, we don't even have to think about it. It's like a knee-jerk reaction. It's like a muscle. Why do I bring this up? Well, I see that phases of learning is the same way. And so when I coach someone, it's kind of near the end of stage four, right? So if you're a brokerage, and you're an agent, you're in a brokerage, you need to go to training, right? We talked about that information overload, so be careful, right? Be selective with the training you're going to. Then you transition to what we call a mentor, right? I had mine. He actually has passed away, but I rode in his car. Like I saw what he said to buyers and sellers. He really helped me just perfect my craft. But I was seeing in action, right? So it's different than training. I wasn't in a training room. I was physically in the trenches going on appointments with this mentor. And I was kind of his shadow. I called myself Peter Pan, right? Then we kind of transitioned to an accountability partner. And I hope that's many of you where you're at is an accountability partner is that agent or that broker or somebody that's like, okay, you're going to go do it and I'm going to hold you accountable to that, right? I'm going to make sure you actually did what you said you're going to. I'm going to make sure you honor your own promises because we let down ourselves before we let down others, right? And then we have the professional coach, which is where I think some people kind of get nervous or scared to make that leap. But this is the phase of learning, right? And so I just wanted you to know if you're going to make an impact through all the things we talked about today, and you're at these various stages, that next leap might be for you to hire a professional coach. Or if you're not there yet, maybe you're in the mentor phase. Maybe you need to really reach out to your accountability partner. Find that person that's going to hold you accountable. And be careful of those friends, not necessarily are the best accountability partners that are going to let you off the hook. So I wanted to leave you with one last skill or high impact is what we call launch and land. So if you have an accountability partner or if you have a coach, which I coach people, this is what I do as well. We call it launch and land. So on Monday, you're going to tell this person or me, your coach, the 3 things you're going to complete for the week. My dog is going crazy. And then you're going to do 3 things that you must have finished by the end of the week, by Friday, right? Launch and land is huge for accountability because what it does is it makes sure you prioritize what you need to do. And then at the end of the day, did you do it or did you not do it, right? No excuses. Did you cross it off the list? Did you get it done, right? So hopefully launch and land is something you can implement, okay? Here's our coaching program. This is the last little dog and pony show. This is what I call the QR code section. So if you have your phone, I'd love, if you feel like you want to chat with me about coaching, scan this QR code to get on your calendar and my calendar. We have coaching starting at like $300 a month. And then we can add or subtract certain things based on what you need. So sometimes people say coaching's unaffordable. I beg to differ there. And again, remember we have free trainings every single month. This is what I got teed up for March, April, and May. Again, I talked to you guys at the beginning of the session about this. Very different topics, but hopefully it gives you some inspiration and some motivation and some tools that you can use to really make an impact in your business. And the last but not least, This is where I really want you to do to pull out your cell phone and scan this QR code. I have a goal to hit 300 Google reviews. So just like you, I get referrals from agents. I actually got one yesterday, which I appreciate. They're like, hey, I think an agent might need you to coach them. I reach out. But a lot of people find me online. So if you can scan this QR code, maybe give me a one line sentence of like why you thought this was good, or maybe it was a reminder of something you've heard before, or maybe it motivated you in a positive way. I'm at 290. I just checked the other day. I'm at 290 Google reviews. Fingers crossed, I want to get to 300 before the end of the month. So, first of all, I want to just thank you for your time. I know many of you were snowed in. I know you had a choice to be here or not be here. I will send you the recording. I'll send you the content. I'll send you all of those separate documents, the tracking documents that I shared in the presentation. And I hope that I can see you in person soon or at the next training. And I just wanted to say, have an amazing day, and I'll talk to you soon.